Hey everybody, it's Ryan. Welcome back to How Farms Work. Today we are going to do some more tillage work with the 8370R. We got the Earthmaster 3000 vertical tillage tool on. I am going to run up to my 30-acre no-till cornfield and I'm going to knock the stalks down. Part of when you lease ground, part of what it is going back and forth with the landlord. You know, sometimes landlords have certain things that they do or don't want done on the ground, and a lot of people say that, okay, they want no-till, which is understandable. So one of those things to work around is, you know, working with the landlord. And part of the conditions on this specific field that I have is that in the fall we can go through and we can knock down the corn stalks with the vertical tillage tool. So that's what I'm going to do today. After I'm done up there, I'm likely to come back to the main farm and keep knocking stalks down here. Once we go through with the vertical tillage tool, we're going to go through with the chisel plow. Whether we can get to it with the chisel plow this fall, meh, because it is kind of getting late. Just kind of depends on how long the weather holds off and before it gets too nasty like it has been. So today I'm going to do a cold start on the 8370R. This tractor does have the cold start package in it. However, really only what that is just the ether that's in the front. There's an ether hookup. I believe he showed me it was somewhere up front. Might be. I don't see it. There it is. It's right up. It's behind the light here. So I don't think I'll have to use the ether on it. But people, I saw in the comments of the last video, people were asking me several questions. I'm going to try to answer a lot of those questions that I saw. And one of them was, you know, what does the cold start package include? And it really only includes the ethers. There is no glow plugs or block heater or anything. There might be a block heater, I guess. Actually, there likely is to be one. Yep, right here. So if it's cold out, you can plug that in. That'll keep the engine warm and it'll start much easier. But it hasn't been hooked up, so this will be kind of interesting to see what it does, because we haven't started it since it's been this cold. The 82 does start hard. I had a conversation with someone else about how hard it started when we first started in the first video where I brought it back, and the 82 has had some issues with starting pretty hard. So on a cold day, I would imagine that large engines like these, you know, they are pretty hard to get started. So anyway, let's get to it. And if I can, I'm gonna go back and check and see what other comments there were to try to, you know, answer some more of those questions and you know, get back to people, because I like to answer people's questions. I was getting a little concerned there at first, I will admit. Normally the 82 doesn't start that hard when it's above freezing. If the 82 has been sitting outside like this thing has, I wouldn't have gotten it started. So, alrighty, well, let's go ahead and get to it. So yeah, that was a little bit of a rough start. So I'm gonna heated seat. But got to make sure that the vertical tillage tool is all the way up, that it's in transport mode. That's in transport mode. Wings are completely folded in and locked, and we're good to go. So I just pulled in. I got to set the machine down. I got to set the depth control so that we're really only going really not that deep. I'm not totally sure how deep I want it to be set, but I don't want to disturb the dirt that much. We're just trying to knock down the corn stalks. I gotta go over and I gotta pick up our flags from our depth test over there. And I'll do that once I go like 100 feet. So I'm gonna fold out the wings, set the back and forth so it's more level. That actually looks really good, but I'm gonna probably raise it up just a hair because I think we're digging in a little too much. Now let's talk about the tires on the 8370R a bit. So the duals in the back are 480 by 80 R50s, which are a narrower tire than what we have on the 8235R. Now, the reason that this tractor has the wheels it does and is spaced, has the wide wheeled spacing like it does, is because if you look down at the corn row, you'll see that the corn row goes right in between those tires. And not just on one side, both sides. So what this means is that you can go down a row of corn, 30-inch rows, and you cannot run over the corn stalks. Well, you can, but if you run down the row, you shouldn't. The 8235R has wider tires. Not totally sure if they sit higher than this one's or not, but between using the two, there is pros and cons to using each. And the pros of having tires like the 83 is that you don't have that wheel wear as you're driving and you're constantly running over corn stalks like we do with the 8235R, because the 82 isn't spaced for 30-inch rows. It would be nice if it was, but I'm not totally sure how wide those tires are. But the way this thing has the tires set up, it's very nice because you're not constantly running over those corn stalks every inch and wearing them quite so hard. However, I will admit that this tractor does have a lot of power. And the first thing I noticed that gives isn't the engine, it's the tires. You run out of traction before you run out of power. With the 82, you know, you don't have enough power to really slip the wheels too much. So it's kind of a back and forth kind of thing. But I feel that with the 82's tires, you do have a little bit more ground contact, because that's why you want duals, is because more flotation. You're not really putting so much compaction into one area. You're spreading it out, you're distributing the weight, and you have more ground contact. But if I had to choose between the two, I think I would choose the tires that are on the 83. You know, I'm really not a big fat tire kind of person. Maybe if it's dualed, it's not so bad, but a lot of our overseas viewers constantly ask me, you know, why we have such thin tires here in America. And well, that is one reason for them, is because with 30-inch rows, you can fit the tires down them. Over in Europe, the situation that they have is that the roads are so old and they're so narrow that the implements and the machines over there have to be narrower. So what they tend to do is they tend to put wider tires on. I'm trying to figure out which angle to put my camera at so we don't get so much wind noise. But over in Europe, you know, they try to keep them narrow because of those narrow roads, and they don't really do duals so much like we do over here in the US, because we do have wider roads that are newer and we have more space for the machinery. And part of the problem that I have with wide tires is that you don't have as many tires on the ground. You don't have quite as much ground contact with those wider tires. I know someone's going to say, well, if you have a wide enough tire, you will. But if you're in a muddy situation, I think you're going to have a lot more luck having duals than having those smaller or wider tires without the duals. And I've used both, and I can honestly say that I prefer having duals compared to just having wider tires. So just my 2 cents. Kind of hope to clear that up as to why Americans over here have duals with wider, or duals with skinnier tires as compared to just having single fat tires. So I'm gonna go pick those flags up over there, and I'm gonna start this back up, head down, and I'm gonna fine tune the VT until I get it at the proper depth, and then I'm gonna go ahead and get this field done. I'm really happy with how that looks. All right, so I'm still working on this field. I was messing around with the screen trying to learn a little bit more, and I got into the suspension settings, and I got it into manual mode, which is only enabled under 3 miles an hour, and I set it all the way down. Now, if I hold the up button, gradually the front of the tractor raises pretty high up. Now it feels like the whole tractor is like leaning back. But just the difference between the high and low, it makes the tractor feel very strange. You can put it all the way down, and then it looks like you're like looking down at the ground, and it sets the front end pretty low. It's just weird to me that you can change how the tractor feels, and I'm not sure what happens when you go, when you go above 3 miles an hour, it goes back to auto mode, and then the suspension goes back to smoothing things out. So people have been asking me, are we gonna buy this, or is it gonna stay? As much as I'd like it to, we are never really planning on keeping this thing. We got asked if we wanted to demo it, and we said, sure thing, send her down. So we did, and I mean, I like it a lot more than the 82. It rides a lot smoother, a lot more horsepower, and it just runs more efficiently. At some points, I think where the gas savings really are when you're going down hills, because I switched the transmission over from auto to manual, and as I was going down the hill, and in manual I was burning 10-11 gallons an hour, but when it was in full auto it went down to 6 and 7. So I could definitely see some fuel savings there, especially if you have rolling ground like us. But I imagine it could also be good for saving fuel on flat ground too. So as far as this thing sticking around, I would like it to, but especially with how things are going right now, crop prices aren't that great. It's just not in the budget, and there are a lot of things that the farm has to have, or things that need to come on the farm, and a bigger tractor is on the list. It's just not first thing. So what the order of things is kind of depends on the person buying each and everything, because for me, back before I bought the grain cart, a grain cart was in the works, because we were spending a lot of time messing around with wagons and the auger, and it's just saved us so much time. So I know that someday we would like to have a semi. Not today. We got a few more things that need to come before a semi. One, I think, being a larger combine. So just wanted to answer the questions on whether we're going to keep this thing and what we could see coming in the future. I am working on something for next year, so you know, if that goes through, maybe we'll see some stuff here. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to tell. I'm not a future. I don't read the future, but if crop prices jump up to $10 a bushel for corn, maybe. But yeah, just thought I'd answer that question. one lap to do around the outside, and then I'll be done at this field. I think I'm gonna go back to the main farm and do some VTing there, because Travis said that he wanted to do some chisel plowing and he wanted to do it at one of the home farms. So once I'm done here, I'm gonna pack up and go back. Now, this tractor is going to be going back after today, so everybody's gonna have to start saying, bye 8370R. It's a nice tractor, I really like it. The transmission, honestly, I like the IVT transmission more than I do power shift. They say, however, that power shift is more bulletproof, that they have significantly fewer problems than many other types of transmissions. So if you don't factor in reliability, I would have to say that IVT is my favorite. I don't know, it's just something about it. It's very functional, it's easy to use, it's very customizable, it's simple. Power shift, it just feels kind of clunky, I guess you could say. It's not really smooth, but without factoring in reliability, you know, some of the earlier tractors that had IVT transmission in them, some farmers bought them, and then after a few thousand hours, the transmissions went out. And that's a pretty expensive fix. So I can't really blame those farmers who have bought them in the past and now say, I'm never buying an IVT again, because, I mean, if that was me, yeah, I probably would never buy one again too. But they do say that in some of the newer tractors, such as this one, that they are more reliable than the earlier models. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. That's just word of mouth from what I've heard from people. But I don't know, I really like it. It's very simple, and it just makes things so much easier. Some people always comment and say, you know, oh, they don't need a tractor that big for the acres they run. Okay, yeah, that's for the acres that we run now, but what about when we start expanding? You know, like the 82, some people keep saying, no, the 82 is enough. My 200 horsepower so-and-so can pull our disc full depth at 5 miles an hour uphill. Okay, but what kind of soil do you have? What kind of hill are we talking? I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into it. All I know is that when pulling the VT, the 8235R that we've got just isn't enough, especially for going up a hill like this, because I'm pulling it going 7.1 right now, and I guarantee you the 82 wouldn't be pulling this at 5 miles an hour right now, just because the 82 has so much weight, plus the weight of the VT on the back. It's just, the tractor can't push itself. So, and we do want to get larger implements. I mean, if the 82 had more horsepower, we would have gotten a 30-foot VT, but we were limited for what this can pull, and we had to get a 25-foot. And I'm glad we didn't get the 30-foot because of that reason. I mean, it would have been such a pain going up and down hills with the extra weight on there. But I mean, today I wish that we did get a 35 footer, because then I could have put this thing really to the test. But the thing you got to ask yourself is, if you're a farmer, what do you upgrade first? Do you buy an implement that is so large that none of your tractors can pull it, or do you go out and buy the larger piece of machinery that can do the job and buy the implement later? Well, I can tell you that I'd buy the tractor first and the implement later. So, just my opinion, just my thoughts. I know that some people say, oh, I pulled up a 45% grade. I don't even know how steep 45% is off the top of my head, but all I know is that we need something bigger in the long run, especially with combines. People keep saying that we don't need a bigger combine, but I can tell you that the combine right now, a larger one with more capacity, is desperately needed. Some people say that we run too slow. Well, I don't know what it is, but that combine really can't go any faster than we already pushed it. But then again, we do have those gathering chains on the front with the brushes, and that sucks up more corn material, so we can't go quite as fast. But we've already done the tests and seen that, you know, those do save kernels. So all right, well, just wanted to clear the air on some of those questions that you guys got. I hope you enjoyed this little series of demonstrations from the 8370. Who knows, maybe we'll see it again someday, who knows. Maybe the neighbor will get it. Or maybe they'll hang on to it long enough until we're ready to trade up. Who knows? But thanks everyone for watching. Be sure to check out all of our other videos. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Be sure to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat. All How Farms Work. And I'll see you next time.